Hey everyone, this is Tony making a video to share my Steve Carlton collection. Start with the 1989 Steve Carlton night program. I always liked the front of it, so I bought 4 of them. The top one is autographed. It's an older Steve Carlton autograph, you can tell by the S and how the end trails off. And here's the ticket for it. If you open these up, a lot of details around Carlton's career. You can pause that when you want. Then the last few pages are his records he set. Lefty's pretty underrated today. In the recent Baseball Card Hall of Fame, his 1965 Topps, while it is a 2-player card, didn't fare well. People seem to forget that Steve was the second pitcher to reach 4,000 strikeouts and the first pitcher in history to win 4 Cy Youngs. I also like this program not only because it has all his stats, and the first one I bought was in 1990, a year after, but it has a lot of words of praise or quotes that among the game's best have talked about Steve. You can pause this when you want to read it. Let's show some cards. We're going to go in order of newer to oldest. This is the 2023 Dynamic Duels Topps card. I bought this because I thought it was a nice picture of Nick Carver, who was Steve's primary favorite catcher. It's an autograph sticker, pretty cool card, inexpensive considering his cards don't go for much nowadays. It's not like how his cards were in the 1980s. Here we have a card that my son picked out. It's a Topps 2021 Heritage dual autograph of Bryce Harper with Steve. Now we're getting a little bit older. Here is a 1999 Upper Deck Century Legend. These are fairly popular for collectors who want to get Hall of Fame autographs on a card. And a lot of Hall of Famers were still alive when these came out. I usually cover up my slab certificates and grades, just didn't have time today. 1988 Flair Carlton. Really shouldn't have been playing at this time, but supposedly he had money problems. He also wanted to pitch. He was on the DL only once in his entire career, and he wanted to give it another go. He ended up getting a World Series ring with the Twins, but he was left off the roster. He did make a special appearance at the White House and was mistaken in a couple pictures for a Secret Service agent. Another time when Lefty should have not pitched. He should have hung it up after the 86 season, in my opinion. Here's the 86 Topps traded Tiffany. One of the only few cards of him wearing an Indians uniform. Regular 87 Topps OPG in a White Sox uniform. You could tell OPG and Tiffany had a different card stock than the regular Topps cards of that era because the back is whiter, brighter, and a little bit cleaner looking, higher quality. 86 Topps Tiffany Steve Carlton. Same thing with the back. He already had 314 wins for going into the 86 season. 85 Carlton. This is also Tiffany. 84 Topps Tiffany Carlton. Like this card, you can see the leg kick is how when he was about to do the stride after the leg kick, he would always have his glove low, pointing towards the ground. Here we have a 1982 Fleer Stamps with Steve and Dave Parker, most likely taken during the All-Star game. Blank back. Switch it up a little bit. Let's go to an autograph. This is a Perez Steel Hall of Fame card. It was made in 1994. You can tell by his signature that the S is a little bit different than the previous one I showed you. This is also, it's an older signature, but it's closer to how he signs today. One of his more popular cards, 1980 O-Pee-Chee. He won the Cy Young in 82, 80, 77, and 72. So this was a Cy Young year card. I don't have any of his 82s. Did as a kid, but those are long gone. Here we have a 1979 O-Pee-Chee. (1978) O-Pee-Chee. I actually have two of these. I think this one looks just as good as this. (1977) O-Pee-Chee. Same thing with the back. Brighter cardstock than what we're used to with the regular Topps. Here we have a 1977 Venezuela League sticker. I have two of these. The one on the right graded higher because of the bottom. Bottoms are sharper. Centering's almost the same for both cards. Here is a photo I picked up with my father at it was the 1988, it had to been 1989 January 500 home run show. You can compare the autographs. You can see how the S changed in Steve. His C's nearly identical. So getting this with my father means a lot to me. I don't see this 8x10 autograph going anywhere out of my collection. Here we have a random, I have to get this graded. It's another Fleer sticker. We have a, stamp. We have another stamp here. This one has a little bit of damage on the back. Back to cards. That's 1976 Topps Steve Carlton. Really like this card. See, it's one of the last cards I'm aware of that he's sporting a mustache. $1975 OPG. Let me zoom out for this one. This is a 1974 Topps Deckle Edge whiteback. Took me a long time to find this one. Really interesting back. Also have a 1974 Johnny Pro. Not many of these are out there. Johnny Pro was a promotional company based in Baltimore. They made these to resemble the 1974 stand-ups. And they had Baltimore Colts, Baltimore Orioles, and the Philadelphia Phillies. Those are the only teams I'm aware of that Johnny Pro made these promotional items for. Here we have the 1974 Topps. And if you compare the OPG backs to the Topps, you could tell the OPG is brighter, a little bit more premium in terms of the color used. Some OPGs are a little bit more fragile on the front, and most of them have a rough cut. If you see ones that don't have a rough cut, then it might have been sheet cut after someone found a sheet and they had it cut second in the aftermarket. $1973 Kellogg's. '73 was an off year for Carlton. Well, you could say that about any player coming off that type of 1972 Cy Young year. He had a couple different factors. Pitched a lot in '72. He started having issues with the media during the offseason. Bill Conlon didn't make it any harder for him, didn't make it any easier for him, during that season. He was a media fellow who we had, sports reporter for the Daily News in the 70s and 80s. Here we have a 1973 Topps Leaders. Steve Carlton and Nolan Ryan. Nice card. It'd be nice to get this autographed. Steve had 310 strikeouts in 1972, and Nolan Ryan had 329. 73, Nolan Ryan broke the all-time single-season strikeout record, but you could tell he started becoming a better pitcher when he went to the Angels with their pitching coach. Here is the '73 OPG Steve Carlton. This is one of my favorite Carlton cards, one of the favorite cards in my entire collection. Started buying Steve Carlton cards in 1988 at the National with my father. Then I resumed again in 2018. Here we have Steve's first card as a member of the Phillies, '72 Topps Traded. His regular '72 OPG. OPG did not have the traded version, so picked up this in OPG, this one in Topps. Didn't have a choice. This is heavily airbrushed. '72 Topps Traded. believe it's a short print too, since it's a high number. Here we have one of the Topps lids. This is not a 71 test issue. This is, I wonder, I forget without looking it up if this is a 73 or 72. I think 71 was the test issues and 72. Nah, this is 73. 72 had the test issues. I'm not sure because there's no logo on it. Should really know that. Here we have a 72 Venny. It's a stamp. Pretty hard to come by. It took me a while to get this. Dylan from Twitter had it, and then he wanted to use he sold it to me. Knew I was a big Carlton guy. I actually have an unopened pack of these. I wonder if I can pull one. Here we have the 71 Dell, Steve Carlton. This is the team stamps. There were two types of booklet. One booklet came with the stamps of all the team, and there's another booklet of just the All-Stars. They look nearly identical. I believe this is the All-Star version on my right, and on the left is the team version, as you can see. Getting into more of my favorite Steve Carlton cards now. 1971 Topps, among my favorite sets of all time. Love the black borders. And one of the first years Topps started using action shots, and compared to previous years and most Topps cards, this would be considered an action shot, which isn't saying much. Also have another one of these I had to get graded. Been meaning to get this graded for the last 2 years. This is also Topps. And we have the 71 OPG. Identical cards on the front. The back, obviously the layout and the color used is different, along with the cardstock. $19.70. Have the Topps on the left and the OPG on the right. You'll notice I have a lot of OPGs in my Steve Carlton collection, same as my other player focuses. I just like the OPG cards better. I remember the 1980s when I bought hockey cards. OPG was always the considered premium brand compared to Topps, even though they were nearly identical. And as I got older, I just stuck with the OPG. When I bought 90% of my Steve Carlton cards, they were cheaper than Topps. Same thing with my Mike Schmidt cards. So if I was a PSA set registry person, I would not score high because I mix and match between Topps and OPG, but my focus is with the OPG cards. Now in the 60s and 1970, the backs weren't as different. Yeah, Topps has the darker cardstock. The OPG, this particular one has a darker cardstock, but they're nearly identical. It's usually the opposite. OPG has the lighter stock. And obviously with all OPG cards, you'll have French. So that's 1970. $1969. By this time, Steve already started coming into his own. In 1969, he had his first 15-plus win season. He had 17 wins, I believe, in 1969. Had a good 71 season too. Cardinals didn't want to give him what Steve thought he was worth, and he was ultimately traded to the Phillies. for Rick Wise. Here we have the 1968 Topps. Another one of my favorite cards despite the burlap sack border. A lot of the 69 and 70, a lot of the 68 and 69 cards share similar pictures, if not identical. Carlton was one of the players that wasn't the case. Here we have the 67 OPG. Have two of them. I looked over these cards. I think they're a little undergraded, but again, the focus isn't really on grade, it's eye appeal. But when you come to mid-60s OPG, it's hard to find really high grade or even low to mid-grade cards with nice eye appeal. And we have the regular 1967 Topps. So the front's the same. If we compare the backs, nearly identical. And when I say nearly, it's because mainly where the cards are printed. In 1967, the French wasn't used in the back of OPG cards. It was all English, but you could tell here, printed in Canada versus printed in the USA. Here we have one of the cards that I would consider a what if. Steve didn't have a 1966 card, but Topps Heritage put one out. Career stats on the back. Now we're on to the rookie card, 1965 Topps. I have two of these. One's autographed, one's not. Let's look at the autograph first. If you compare the autos to the Heritage, which is a newer, signed within the last 7 years, the S's are slightly different, but this is a later Carlton signature. So both cards. You can see Steve doesn't really open up his S's anymore. The placement of the autograph isn't ideal either, but the card has nice eye appeal and it's still signed. And here's the non-autographed one. This is one of the first vintage cards I picked up. Not this exact card, but at the 1988 National, my father helped me buy a 67 Seaver, 65 Carlton, 84 Gooden, and an 84 Clemens. I picked those four cards with his help financially instead of a 52 Topps Willie Mays. Carlton was my guy then, even as a 12-year-old, and his career was winding down. He was my favorite pitcher. So I went with that. I got four cards, paid a little bit less, and I missed out on a nice condition Willie Mays, but who knows, it could have been trimmed. Never know. But Carlton and Schmidt, they were my guys growing up, even though I didn't get a chance to see lefty pitch often. Take a look at the back. Bought this specific card. Actually bought one in 2018, sold it, and then I picked up this one when it was on sale. And this one came from PWCC. Real nice eye appeal, despite the low grade. Well, thanks for taking a look at my Steve Carlton collection.